there was a big and well-made ship for its time, though it's still the beginning of the 20th century. We are talking about a good ship that belonged to the Austrian Empire, actually to the Austro-Hungarian fleet, because if you know history, that's the empire we had at the time. And though Austria doesn't have sea, this ship that belonged to them, it made a rather common route for the time, but a long one, starting from Trieste in Italy and going all the way to Bombay in India. So it was crossing the waters here in the open of Elafonisi because it was headed towards the Suez Canal, and then later, of course, it would go all the way to India and the Indian Ocean. Like I said, it was a common route for the time, but if you also remember coming down here, I told you why these waters are notorious. The storms and how dangerous they can be, especially for ships. The thing is that here you need to be local and experienced to read the water well, to read the wind, to know about the tides and the currents and the rocks. And all of this, if you combine it with storms that can happen in winter time, can cause real trouble, not only in the ancient times like we said, but also in the modern times. This ship we're talking about was called the Imperatrix, and it was carrying 140 people that day, mostly of Italian origin. And what happened was, of course, it got caught in a storm here, and throughout the storm, you know, that progressed many hours, the boat had mechanical failure in the engine, so they lost control of it, and of course, as the storm kept progressing, it actually hit the rocks in the far end of Elafonisi Island. There you can see them, they go high up above the sea, but they're also the kind of rocks that you don't really see well under the sea. They take a lot of space there as well. So the Imperatrix hit there, and it started to sink, but also in a matter of phase, it got stuck on the rocks. So it was halfway sunk and halfway stuck on the rocks as the storm was progressing. Now the order for everyone on board was to not try and evacuate the ship under any circumstance, even though there was panic. But it's maybe that it was so much panic, maybe there was a language barrier and they didn't understand the order. But 38 of the people that were on board decided they would go on a life craft, maybe even because the boat was so close to Elafonisi, they thought they could make it over. But what happened is the life craft, when it hit the sea, it toppled, so those people fell into the ocean, and they did, all but one of those people did lose their lives that day. The rest of them that remained on board waited for the storm to calm down, and then with the help of ropes, they managed to get two Italian men onto Elafonisi safely. So it was the next morning that this happened, and they walked all the way over to the monastery of Chrysoscalitis, and that we saw, and they told the monks what had happened, and that there were still many people on board that needed help, and they were stranded there. But you must imagine, Crete at the time, especially the south of Crete, was still a white place, and these people didn't really have what it took to help. They needed bigger ships to come down here and help them. So actually, they had to go all the way to Chania, where we started this morning, and this took a whole day of travel to reach the city center and inform the officials. And in this way, a German and a French boat were informed to come down here, and they then came and helped everybody get off the ship. So even it had been almost 2 days since the incident had happened, everyone else that listened to the order got off board safely, and they were taken care of at the Chrysoscalitis monastery, so they were okay. They were the survivors of the tale. Those that were not the survivors, their bodies were found, and they were actually buried in the far end of Elafonisi Island, in a place that you can't really visit today. They're behind, let's say, the rocks, but there their bodies lie, and that is why we also see a cross on the island. If you went close enough, you could see it. Once upon a time it used to be white, now it has lost a bit of its color, but there is a big cross there in their memory. And that is also when the chapel, the building that you see there on Elafonisi, was built. It is in honor of Saint Irene, and Irene means peace in Greek, so that those people would